I was really excited when RTC reached out to like work together because I mean, I haven't worked with RTC directly, but in one of my last companies, I worked at Bank of America, and they're really big on like Girls Who Code and RTC.
Okay.
And we went to Grace Hopper one year, and I did do an event with RTC for like a meet and greet kind of thing.
Oh,
So
cool.
it's really cool to like be part of this.
Can you briefly introduce yourself and kind of what you do and your work?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Sandra. I worked in software engineering, cybersecurity, and alongside of that, I also started a YouTube channel when I graduated college in 2019, and basically just started out for fun, and then it kind of pivoted into helping people break into cybersecurity because I made a video on how I got into cybersecurity and got a lot of questions on that and how I studied for certifications and like the study resources I used. So I just made more videos on those topics, and I kind of became a cybersecurity tech channel. It wasn't initially supposed to be that way, but I liked the way it was going. So yeah, I now am currently doing this full time. Actually, I took a career sabbatical last summer, or oh, actually, it's been 2 summers now, so that's kind of crazy. It's been 2 summers since I took a career sabbatical, and right now I'm just doing tech content creation full time. Very different from what I went to school for, but for now I'm doing it, and then eventually going back into either cybersecurity or software engineering.
Cool. That's awesome that you're able to like do it full time. I know that like that leap is always like hard and scary. So the fact that you were able to is awesome. Can you explain briefly how you got into cybersecurity and like what your journey was like into that?
Yeah, so I actually entered college as a nursing major, very different from tech, but I changed my mind because I realized I was like very queasy around blood. So I switched my major to computer science. And then I think it was math that I didn't really want to take. Like I think it was like Calc 2 or something. So I switched my major from computer science to IST, which is information science and technology. So it's similar to IT, but at my school, I went to Temple University, and they honestly focus a lot on like full stack development there, even though it's IST. But we did take some network security classes as part of my major, and I actually attended the Grace Hopper conference my actually I think my junior and senior years. So maybe even also my sophomore year, but the Grace Hopper conference has been a huge impact on my career, and that was basically where I met a lot of my employers. But my senior year, I attended, and Bank of America was there, and I basically just went up to the booth the last day. It was Friday, and I didn't think they had any roles open left because I know GHC has a lot of like on-site offers and stuff. But I ended up talking to a recruiter there and a hiring manager that they were really interested in my background, and their team also sounded really cool. So I ended up getting my first level cybersecurity offer right from that conference, which is was really really cool.
Oh, that's awesome. That's so cool to see how like just a conference was able
Yeah.
to get you that job. How big is Temple's program? Because I'm assuming you have like access to a lot of
Mhm.
different, uh, more than a smaller school, I guess.
Yeah, it had to have been at least like a few thousand students in the CIS department, which was CS, IST, data science. I think those were like the three main majors in CIS, but it was probably like a few thousand students across all 4 years. Yeah.
Cool. That makes sense. I guess what motivates you, like in like around tech and like even with your content creation career, what motivates you?
I think the biggest thing is when someone messages me or sends me an email that they got a job or like an offer or a certification, based on like the videos I put out or the content that I'm making. So that's always like a really cool sign that hopefully I'm doing the right thing. Because in college I did a lot of volunteer work with tech girls, and then in my early career I did a lot of volunteer work with the Girls Who Code summer immersion program. So it's always been like a big part of my, I guess, identity, to help more women break into tech. And yeah, and now I guess it's kind of expanded a little bit on that, but I do think that's the biggest motivator. And just being able to grow a community on Discord on my different platforms has been also a really big bonus.
I love that. That's such a cool thing that you actually get like tangible evidence that like you're helping women or anyone just get into tech. That's awesome. What's your current tech obsession? Like, do you have anything that you're currently like fangirling about in tech?
Um, I guess, like, this one's kind of funny, but maybe just, like, home automation stuff. I've been doing a lot of, like, smart light setup for, like, lights dimming at 8 PM and, like, just, like, having more of a routine, but, like, using, like, tech to automate that for me. I have an alarm that, like, isn't really an alarm, but it's like a sunset alarm. I don't know if you've seen those,
I
but
have one too.
oh, really? Yeah. Like, they basically, like I think at, like, 6 AM or something, it kind of, like, fakes a sunset, so it feels like you're naturally waking up, and apparently it's, like, really good for your body or something. But then I have, like, yellow lights turn on at 8 PM so that I can, like, get ready for bed towards a certain amount of time or, like, at a certain time, so I guess stuff like that. So a little bit, like, more, hardware focused.
That's smart. I might be implementing that now. So thank you.
Yeah.
Um, I guess what do you think are the biggest misconceptions about cybersecurity?
Um, I think the biggest thing is that you need cybersecurity experience to break into cybersecurity. But I know a lot of people say that cybersecurity isn't an entry level role, which could be the case for a lot of companies. But personally, I started my entry level career in cybersecurity, so I don't believe that misconception. But I do think that it's definitely easier to get experience in other areas. For example, in college, I did a part-time job at a computer repair shop, and while it wasn't cybersecurity experience, it was still like somewhat related to IT and like troubleshooting. So having that on my resume definitely helped because I had experience doing some technical diagnostics. I also had experience with customer service. So it helped having that on my resume, even though it wasn't, like full on technical or like cybersecurity or even just like internship experience. So you don't have to get it, just through the traditional routes. A lot of part-time jobs are really great for that you can do during the semester, which is the advice that I give to a lot of my students and mentees. Um, but another way is, I guess, like breaking into cybersecurity in other areas. For example, a lot of people will start out in IT first because there's technically more entry level IT jobs than there are cybersecurity entry level jobs. So that's another way into cybersecurity that you don't need, to have a cybersecurity experience first. So there's a lot of different routes into cyber, and I know nowadays with the job market being kind of crazy, it can be really easy to be like, oh, there's like no jobs out there. But there are. I still see a lot of people who are still getting cybersecurity internships. And that's another thing if you're currently a student. I personally think that one of the best ways to get hired into a full time job after you graduate is to have a returning offer from your internship. So that's another reason why you should grind really hard to get those internships in school and then hopefully have it become like a full time offer. I think that's definitely one of the safest routes.
Yeah, especially in this current
Yeah.
just job market and everything. It's rough out there.
Yeah.
I know you briefly mentioned for Grace Hopper how that had such an impact on your career. Is there anyone else or anything else that you think has had like that really big impact on your career?
This sounds really cliche, but probably one of my professors from Temple. She was actually so Temple has a scholarship for the Grace Hopper Conference, and she was the one who actually recommended I apply back then. And back then I wasn't like doing a lot of this stuff, so it was my first tech conference, and I just applied because she recommended me to do it. And after that I actually went, and that was when I got my first official internship. It was in software engineering, but still my first internship that I was really excited for. And then the second year that I went, I applied for the official Grace Hopper like scholars scholarship, right?
Yeah,
And
I know
something
what you're
I don't
talking
know
about.
the name. Yeah. And I ended up getting that, and that was how I went the second time in school in my senior year. And honestly, it was all because of her. She also wrote a lot of my recommendation letters. She introduced me to people in the industry because she was also the lead of ACMW at our school and was in charge of like a lot of, I guess, like bringing in networking companies, like companies that you can network with in school. So yeah, honestly, she really changed the trajectory of my career or like my educational path as well. And even to this day, we still stay in contact. And I have gone to Great Hopper a few times after um, I graduated, so it's always nice connecting with her there because every year she brings students um, from Temple. So yeah.
Oh, I love that. I love that like you stay in contact with her because I know a lot of professors and teachers and they love to like see how their students have grown and like where their careers are at. So I love that you like still say hi every so often. What's one piece of advice you'd give to your younger self?
Um, I think it would be that taking breaks is just as productive as working hard because I know, I mean, in college you're kind of like always grinding because, you're looking for internships, you're also trying to get good grades, you're trying to pass your exams, but also do like extracurriculars and like the things that I guess companies might want to see on a resume. But if you're like constantly grinding, you're going to eventually burn out. And if you don't take the time for yourself, then your body's kind of going to force you at some point. So if you don't take a break, it's really a matter of like you get to choose when your breaks are or you don't because your body's just going to let you know when it needs to take a break. So yeah, taking a break, slowing down is just as important as like pulling an all-nighter to pass an exam. So yeah.
I think that's so smart, especially in tech when like I
Mhm.
feel like you're just supposed to grind. Like that is like so many people think that's all tech is grinding when you can have like a successful career or reach those same heights and it's just as important to like take a break and like force yourself to get away from the screen and do stuff. So,
Mhm. Yeah, exactly.
yeah. I guess what trends in cybersecurity are you most excited about or concerned?
Mm.
Or concerned.
Um, I think my answer to both questions is AI. Because, well, first, I guess most excited about is just how accessible technology is now with the rise of AI. And for example, like a company that may not initially have access to someone who can build a website. Nowadays, there's like no code applications and like tools that you can use and AI builders. So it's definitely made tech a lot more accessible to different companies, different like nonprofits, a lot of different sectors across the board. But I will say that something I'm concerned about is overall the rise of deepfakes, and um, I do something that needs to be talked about a little bit more, just in a way that it's governed, like who can use this. And I see so many videos on TikTok now and like different platforms where you can literally make a deepfake of someone just talk about anything. And I see a lot of companies actually making deepfake videos promoting random products that I think is very ingenuous or not genuine. So I think that's going to be a really big issue. And maybe like you can tell now that like someone is a deepfake video because they're not blinking or like their face looks kind of weird. But in 3 or 4 years, that even just like next year, like this could be a lot more advanced if you're especially if you're comparing the deepfakes to like how they used to be. Um, the technology is advancing so quickly, and I do think that there needs to be some guardrails in place for who can use this and for what. So yeah.
I actually just saw on Instagram a post about how like the ads that are deep fake and like
Yeah.
you can just select they have like a carousel of people you can
Right.
select to just like choose to promote your business and you can have them say whatever you want. And I didn't realize that some of the people like now that I'm actually paying attention, like I can see that they're a
Yeah.
deep fake, but if you're just like scrolling and not paying a lot of attention, you don't really notice it. So
Right, exactly. And that's what I'm concerned about as well because maybe like if you're like younger and you know about this technology and how it's like basically becoming more popular, you might be aware of it. But if you weren't aware, especially if you're someone, let's say, who may be part of an older generation and may not expect this kind of technology, you could easily be falling for so many scams that are so prevalent nowadays using this technology. So it's definitely very dangerous. I think that's one of my biggest concerns.
yeah, I think there's like a lot of benefits to AI, but also like the guardrails, especially with deep
Yeah.
fakes. Like, very, I know you kind of mentioned this briefly, but for someone interested in cybersecurity,
So I think a few steps to this. The first one would probably be to figure out which area in cybersecurity you're most interested in. The three big niches are blue team, which is defensive security, red team, offensive security or pen testing, and then GRC, which is sort of like related to auditing and governance and compliance. That one's mostly like non-technical cybersecurity, but still very important. And there's a lot of free courses out there that you can take. Honestly, YouTube is a really good resource I recommend to everyone. You can find like 6 hour courses on YouTube nowadays. So definitely don't sleep on like free resources that you can find on there. And then just taking a free course will give you kind of like the basic understanding of what each area is. And then from there you can decide, okay, which like which path do I actually want to go down, rather than just like dabbling in like one area and jumping around. So you can have at least like a little bit of focus, and then from there you can start building your own cybersecurity home lab. This is actually a lot easier than it sounds. So all you really need is VirtualBox and Kali Linux, and both of those are free to use. So you can basically just download like your own VM, and this will be kind of like your home lab or like a hacking lab, or like an SOC lab if you're on the blue team, and basically using that to do all of your future cybersecurity projects. So I personally recommend getting a lot of technical cybersecurity projects, maybe around 3 to 4, onto your resume if you don't have any prior cybersecurity experience, as well as any like other work experience that you might have onto your resume, because I think it's really helpful to give a recruiter or a hiring manager an outline of the technical skills, not only your technical skills, but also how you've utilized them in a project. So always having some kind of project portfolio is really helpful. And then there are certifications. So that's another thing I think in tech. Cybersecurity has definitely a big emphasis on certifications, um, compared to other sectors. So the Security Plus is the most popular, I would say, certification for beginners. It is a bit pricey, so it depends on what you're really looking for. But personally, I would recommend starting with the Security Plus and maybe one practical certifications, but just in terms of like the certification that recruiters ask for on candidate requirements, it's usually the Security Plus because it's just the most common one right now. I do think that will change in the future, but after that, applying to hundreds of jobs. Right now, I really do think that the job market is a numbers game. So if you're applying to just like a few jobs a day, it's a lot harder to compete. You also, I mean, we've recently gone through the tech recession and a lot of layoffs that happened. So you're basically competing with a lot of candidates that may already have years of experience, and the way to make you stand out is really just through the technical projects, certifications, and like the hard skills on your resume that recruiters are looking for. So that's kind of like the full roadmap that I would.
That's so awesome. Like that's so helpful. I feel like especially depending on the tech company, they might have a recruiter who does, hopefully they would be pretty well versed, but they might not be totally well versed in everything like cybersecurity related. So having like those projects to show exactly what you've done will help them understand. Um, that's awesome. Thank you so much for sharing. Are there any like final thoughts or
Um, I think just like what's meant for you. So like putting in the hard work, and like the hard work that you're doing today is going to pay off. And I know it's like hard, especially if you're currently a student or in the job market. It might feel very difficult a lot of times because you're competing against so many people. You're also like applying to jobs, you're interviewing, you're prepping for interviews. There's a lot that's going on right now, especially with like the global like situation. So there's just like a lot even outside of like what you can control, but just know that it does pay off. And I do think that what's meant to be for you will always be for you no matter what. So not to get like too like, like holistic, but yeah.
no, I think that's awesome advice, especially thinking of like the graduating seniors or even juniors who are like so like in everything like
Mhm.
great classes. I guess midterms, I'm not sure when midterms happen, but
Yeah,
like midterms are probably around right now, but like
I think so.
midterms and all of the classes and applying for jobs and internships and all of that stuff, it's a lot. So like
Mhm. Oh yeah, 100%.
cool. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to like meet with me and talk all about cybersecurity and yourself. And it was great.